10:31 a.m. The Minnesota Vikings and Daniil Hunter agree on a 5-year contract. Hunter's deal is worth $72 million. He gets $40 million guaranteed. Coming up on the show, Mr. Disney World himself, Nick Foles, will join us. We'll do that live, and it's quarterback roulette. Will the guys spin the wheel or stay on the AFC and NFC South quarterbacks? Welcome to NFL Live. Jeff Darlington, Field Yates, and two-time Super Bowl champ Damian Woody. If you guys had to say one guy to get paid this offseason, one guy needs to get paid, who might that be? Who might that
start us off?
It's Aaron Donald.
Sure.
It's the obvious choice, right, Damian?
I think Aaron Donald would be a compelling case. You might go otherwise.
Yeah, usually I don't like those defensive guys, but that's a bad man right there. Better pay that man his money.
There's nobody else left, right?
Well, how about Odell Beckham Jr.?
Possibly the best player on the defensive side, maybe in all of football. Aaron Donald, one of the biggest stories in L.A. this offseason is that mega looming deal that he has coming. Rams COO Kevin Demoff had these comments to NFL Network on the contract.
Build stadiums like this, it's with players like Aaron Donald in mind. And we've been at this process working with them, for the past year and a half to try to make sure that Aaron not only is here for the opening of the stadium, but plays well into his years and that he can play in the 2022 Super Bowl in his own home stadium. So we're working on it. We'll keep pushing forward. The dialogue's been great. It's been positive. I think he and Coach McVay have a terrific relationship. And, we look forward to getting this done and, putting Aaron in the place where he should be among the highest paid defensive players.
Could be done by training camp?
It'll be done before the stadium's done. So, no, we're going to keep hoping, and I hope it's done sooner than training camp. But if it goes to training camp, our goal is to make sure it's done and that he feels rewarded and that it's a win-win deal for both sides.
Okay, you want to get it done before the stadium, take a look at this. No extra pressure here. The Rams put this video of the final beam of the new stadium going in on their website yesterday. So the stadium getting closer. What about the contract? We'll go to Jeff. So, Jeff, what is the timeline then for this deal in the Rams?
Yesterday would probably be the best way to put this. But look, here's the one thing I will say on this. It does take two to tango. And from what I understand, based on my conversations, the Rams have made very reasonable, if not more than reasonable, offers to Aaron Donald's camp. Now, of course, that is up for debate. And without being able to give you exact numbers, there's no way for us to exactly decide whose side we are on. All I'm saying right now is Von Miller's averaging about $19 million per year, and you know that Aaron Donald wants and will ultimately get more, and I think the Rams know that as well.
Right, that's what we're talking about here in terms of the range of money. Now, there are a couple of ways that we view NFL contracts. One is the average annual basis that Jeff just referenced, $19 million per season for Von Miller. You could safely assume it would be closer to $20+ million for Aaron Donald. The other metric that we look at is guaranteed money. Again, Von Miller tops that list, $70 million. And this is probably the number that NFL players care about most. And again, $70 million for Von Miller, go up. And that's when you start to get into Aaron Donald territory, because whether you think Aaron Donald or Von Miller is the better player, it's whoever's getting paid more recently often is the one that sets the new bar for contract money.
And also you got to look at, with a lot of these things, you look at, okay, I'm waiting on somebody else to get paid so then I can, then I can go from there. And that one person is Khalil Mack.
Correct.
I mean, listen, if there's one person that has a team, really has a team, it's Khalil Mack. Yeah. Because you look at that defense, there's really no one else on that defense outside of Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
So if I'm Aaron Donald, I'm just sitting back and looking like, okay, let me see what Khalil Mack does, and then I can come in after that.
You make a good point, Damian, that it does become a waiting game, whereas when Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers are doing their deals, everybody knew that Matt had to do his deal first, and then Aaron would get his deal done. For right now, Aaron Donald has no reason to pull the trigger on this deal. The only thing I will say, the closer this gets to the season, watch for this narrative to flip, because right now everybody is saying, pay Aaron Donald, pay Aaron Donald. Soon enough, that narrative's going to flip, and fans and people are going to start to say, hey, Aaron Donald, I think it's time for you to maybe accept this offer. Because I'm telling you right now, the money that's on the table is very, very large.
Damian, it's 6'1", 285. How is he one of the best defensive players in football?
Technician. Great hands. And this dude is so explosive off the ball. I always say when you're playing inside, boy, leverage and hands are the most important thing. And there's no one, I don't even know if there's anyone even close.
Not even Khalil?
To what Aaron Donald brings to the table in that regard. Explosion and hands. He's on another level. Now you got Ndamukong Suh right beside him.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about that. The best commodity on defense is pressure up the middle. So now you got two guys that can create havoc right up the middle on these drop back quarterbacks. I'm telling you, that's rare. It's rare to have something like that.
Aaron Donald's 66 quarterback hurries. How about this? Were the most in the NFL last season. The next closest was Cam Hayward in Pittsburgh. He had 39.
Yeah.
Almost half.
That's why he's about to get that money.
Insane. Meanwhile, there is a developing story with the New York Giants that we have going on. The police are investigating the discovery of a body found at Giants quarterback Janoris Jenkins' New Jersey home. The man was identified as a family friend who was living at the residence. Police sources told ESPN's Josina Anderson that there is a person of interest investigators are waiting to interview pending the results of medical examiner's report. According to Jenkins, he was not home when the body was discovered and has been in Florida since Giants minicamp ended 2 weeks ago. The Giants say they are aware and are monitoring the situation. 2017 was quite a year for the rookie running backs. This class was headlined by these four guys, all in over 1,000 yards of scrimmage. It's Hunt, Kamara, Fournette, McCaffrey, all each finished in the top 10 among fantasy running backs last season. And rookie running back Darius Geis is expected to be the starter at D.C. The Redskins' second-round pick out of LSU joins Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson in that Washington backfield. So we now go to Field Yates, and we're going to look at these rookie running backs. You got to remember, it's not always the first rounders. It can be those Alvin Kamaras, those Hunts that can make an impact. So how do we rank the most impactful rookie running backs this year?
Let's start here, Jack, and note this is a very good class. There are going to be players that don't make my list that will still be impact players for their respective teams. But let's begin in Tampa Bay, where Ronald Jones II came out of USC in the second round, has a grand opportunity to potentially be the starter. I mean, other candidates include Peyton Barber, Charles Sims. Ronald Jones, fast and explosive as all get out. The question mark is perhaps can he handle a 20-touch-per-game load? Not as big and burly as some of the other backs on this list, but he's a big play waiting to happen. Can also be a factor in the passing game for those first 3 weeks of the season. Of course, no Jameis Winston.
Field, I love that you put him on your top 5. I might even vault him up because of what you mentioned, the opportunity he's got with the Bucs. Peyton Barber will probably be the team's starter, but he's a home run hitter.
He sure is.
Like the Bucs thought that his metrics actually matched up, and people will argue against this, with Saquon Barkley.
How about that?
They feel like they got a steal in Ronald Jones.
All right, so he's number 5. Number 4 is a player that was actually taken in the first round, and somewhat of a surprise. Rashad Penny, San Diego State. College production does not always translate to pro acumen, but his production last season was off the charts, a touchdown machine. He's also outstanding as a return man if they decide to utilize him in that fashion. You think about the opportunity there. Again, you don't use a first-round pick on a running back when you were starving for running back production last year, unless you intend to rely on this player heavily. Rashad Penny, big, physical, fast. Again, even if he's not playing every single down, he can return kicks. And we know Seattle has always put a premium on being good in that third phase of the game.
Well, with this Rashad Penny, he's a tone setter type back.
Yeah.
That's what I envision with him. Seemed like Seattle is trying to get back into that mode.
Can he catch the ball to the backfield? You got
a little bit. Oh, yeah. He can do a little bit of that. A little bit of everything.
Okay.
Again, touchdowns were the number to keep an eye on last year. He was off the charts good.
Okay.
Number 3, another first-round running back, the final pick of round 1, Sony Michel out of Georgia to the New England Patriots. Now, he had just 9 catches last year. It might make you think, there's no way this guy can be a big factor in the passing game. He is. It was simply a matter of they had so many talented pieces last year in Georgia, and he was so busy and effective running the football. He is, in this year's class, all rookie running backs, not like other rookie running backs besides Saquon Barkley, the best big play threat available. 10% of his carries last year ended up in scores. He was ridiculous last season. If you watched the college football playoff, everybody did. Yeah. You saw him tear up the very best in the country.
Is that the Deion Lewis replacement, do you think?
I mean, I don't know how Belichick will use him, but I know he will use him often. He's the kind of guy that's going to see the field early and often, in my opinion. They will grind him down and make sure that he gives them everything in his body.
That's for sure. That typically happens with rookie running backs. That's also why they dominate. Number 2, and they tell you when you're a rookie, it's not how you got here, it's what you do with the opportunity that matters. Now, Darius Geis slipped in the NFL draft. Some people thought the Redskins might have considered him at pick 13 in the first round. He falls to the second round, but it's not about on-field ability. There were some character question marks about Geis, especially in the weeks leading up to the draft. But think about this.
He filled in for Leonard Fournette 2 seasons ago at LSU and had better production. People were like, Leonard who? Well, maybe not quite that far, but there was on a significant drop-off at LSU. Powerful back, and again, last year, Washington was relying on too much of 3 yards and a cloud of dust from Rob Kelly and Samaje Perine. And Chris Thompson's a great player, but he is more of a specific role player as opposed to an every down back like Geis.
Yep. I like it. Are we seeing a little bit more value pumped back into this position? It starts to feel like.
Well, they're going to be paid certainly in that way soon. Yeah. Maybe on Bell, David Johnson,
draft
Todd
too,
Gurley, and others.
You still got to be special to get that.
These guys are multifaceted.
Yes. They are.
Yeah, they don't have to be taken off the field.
Yeah.
And none more so, and this is sort of obvious, but let's still talk about him all the same. Saquon Barkley, the New York Giants' number 1 overall pick, number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. He does everything well. There is not a single thing he doesn't do well, including Post or Magazine. Check out the ESPN body issue if you have not yet. Available on newsstands and also on ESPN.com. He is going to be the centerpiece of this offense. He's going to impact the passing game. He is, of course, going to chew up yards between the tackles. He is going to create yards that even the Giants coaching staff in their most optimistic game plan thoughts are not going to be aware of. He's going to make defenders miss. He's going to run through defenders. He's going to be a special player. Whether you agree with the pick or not, a running back at pick 2, he's probably the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year in our way too early projections in late June.
I like it.
You guys know how I feel about Saquon. I mean, I said the other day on the show that I think he could be historically good for the Giants, and there's no question he has every bit of chance to do that in New York.
And remember, these rookies, it doesn't take long. It does not take long. The last 2 years, the NFL's rushing title has been won by a rookie. For those of you keeping score, that is Ezekiel Elliott and Kareem Hunt. Back to back. Bang, bang. All right, let's get to Danielle Hunter. Let's get to this new contract. We showed you at the top of the show, Vikings defensive end, Danielle Hunter, 5-year contract extension. Deal is worth $72 million, gets $40 million guaranteed for a name that's including $15 million signing bonus. So he signed through 2023 for a name that a lot of people may not know as well. What do we need to know, Field, about
this is a ridiculously talented defense. Everson Griffin, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr. And yet there are people that I've talked to in the NFL that believe that Hunter could be the most talented player on this defense and has Defensive Player of the Year type ability. This deal is an outstanding one for Minnesota. Just a year away from free agency, Danielle Hunter, double-digit sacks last season, an absolute monster. He's young. He's 23 years old. There are guys, and Damian can tell you this best, when you see them, you see them on the hoof, they just look different.
Yep.
Danielle Hunter just looks different, even amongst a roster of 52 behemoth NFL players.
Is he the best on their roster defensively?
I wouldn't say he's the best yet. I would give that to Everson Griffin, but he's not far from being the best. I mean, his physical attributes are special. And I think as he continues to learn the finer points of playing that position, man, this dude it's a baller, absolute baller on that defensive line.
Do you know what's crazy about this conversation? And you just rattled off a bunch of studs on defense. Sheldon Richardson is also on this team.
Sure.
And he is forgotten at this point because he signed a 1-year deal because he couldn't get the multi-year money that he wanted either with the Jets or with the Seahawks, 2 teams that were maybe interested. But this guy could wind up being an absolute stud alongside these other beasts. This defense has the potential to 100% be back in the promised land.
Those defensive ends coming up the field, and then you got Sheldon Richardson right in the middle, ready to eat.
A lot of defense. This is making you a little.
It's making me nauseous a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. That Mr. Zimmer can coach some defensive football too, can he?
Right.
Did it in Cincinnati for a minute. Now he's doing it with Minnesota. Great Emmy winner Bob Lee right there. It's time for one of the great games in football, a little something we call quarterback roulette. Here's how the game goes. There are 2 options. You can either keep the current quarterback on the roster with the remaining contract, his age, all of the things stay the same, or you can spin the wheel. Your team can spin the wheel and you would inherit a new quarterback with his current deal. Today we look at the NFC South. The NFC South might have more quarterback talent than any division. Despite his age, there is no doubting the value of 39-year-old Drew Brees. The Saints quarterback is expected to break Peyton Manning's all-time passing yards mark this season. Matt Ryan, on the other hand, was just handed the biggest contract in NFL history. Ryan hopes to lead the Falcons to a 3rd straight playoff appearance in 2018. And next is Cam Newton, who has led the Panthers to the postseason in 4 of the past 5 seasons. Carolina hoping new offensive coordinator Norv Turner can help improve Cam's accuracy. But the biggest question here, probably Jameis Winston, who has lost 60% of his starts and has had some off-the-field issues as well. So we go to the wheel. And we ask, starting with Jameis Field, would you spin or would you remain?
You know, Jack, this is the most unique quarterback situation on the board right now, with Jameis embroiled in controversy off the field, facing a 3-game suspension for that reason. And to be frank as well, with some decision-making on the field, I am going to spin with Jameis Winston, despite the fact that he has immense natural talent and leadership skills, and he is beloved by the ownership group in Tampa Bay.
It's a big spin, Field.
It's a big, important spin. Let's see what we come up with here. All right, so we're landing on the Los Angeles Chargers, which means that I go from a player in Jameis Winston that is still looking to prove his mettle.
Very interesting replacement.
Looking to prove his mettle in the NFL versus Phillip Rivers, a player that has been in the league since 2004, had sort of a redshirt year right away behind Drew Brees. I feel as though this would be, to me, it's an obvious upgrade. Listen, I understand age is not on my side in the same way it is with Jameis Winston, but how about proven production? If you're Dirk Cutter in Tampa Bay, you don't have time to waste time anymore. You need to win right now. They've got an impressive cast of pass catchers, whether it's Mike Evans, the complementary pieces such as Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, Adam Humphries, 2 tight ends, and Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard. I think Phillip Rivers can make this team far more competitive.
I'm gonna disagree, and not because Phillip Rivers is not the man, but unless you're going to the Super Bowl this year, I go with the young guy.
Okay,
and I stand behind.
Come on.
There's a
You're
lot.
going Jameis, Phil, and
I'm not saying Phillip Rivers is great. Jameis Winston has the potential to still be a great quarterback.
He's young.
I see the upside. Young. I also understand the controversy. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, even though there's still a lot to be seen and to unfold out of this situation. I just think if we step back a little bit and we say this is a guy who, by the way, is still on his rookie deal and can eventually lead them to the promised land they see themselves getting to, without being a prisoner of the moment for a team that's not going to win the Super Bowl this year, I think I go Jameis.
No panic button.
Listen,
no panic.
What do you do, Damian?
Boy, I'm going to, like I said, I think Phil brings up a really good point.
He does. It's a tough one.
Dirk Cutter, if you're the coach and you're in win now, because you don't have much longer.
Yeah, but you're talking job security here? That's what we're making decisions based on?
How else do you mean? That has to be part of the equation, doesn't it?
Who are you going to win a Super Bowl with?
It shouldn't be, but
Rivers?
I feel you.
There are a lot of dynamics involved in evaluating the pros and cons of the quarterback. I agree.
That's true.
But if you had Phillip Rivers, I would think your chances of winning 10 games this season are heightened versus Jameis Winston. And you know something?
Yeah.
Let's say Phillip Rivers has 3 to 4 years left. In the NFL, that's an eternity for some coaches. We are seeing somewhere between 6 and 8 jobs turnover every single year.
And Phillip Rivers, I think he is highly underrated. I don't think he gets enough respect. So in that regard, I feel you. I guess I'm sticking with Jameis.
One thing we can't argue on, a huge year coming up for Jameis Winston.
That's right, no doubt.
Cam Newton, Carolina.
Well, I'm not spinning the wheel here, and let me explain why. Actually, it's not just about his ability on the field and what he's still capable of doing with his NFL career, but rather it's the fact that he has one of the better steals of a contract in the NFL. Don't forget that he's got a few more years left through 2020 season, and by the way, he signed that deal before he became a top-tier quarterback, before he became an NFL MVP. He's sitting there at like $20 million a year. This guy, at this point, for any quarterback, is an absolute steal. With, what does Michael Jordan say? The ceiling is the roof?
Ceiling is the roof. Here's what I'd say about Cam. At his best, he can be the most difficult player in the NFL to defend because no matter what you have in place schematically, he's just physically different, man. They don't make quarterbacks that are 6'5", 240 pounds with that arm. There's truly unique talent.
There's no pause there, right? There was no pause there, right? There was nobody who would spin there? Okay.
No. Let's get to Matt Ryan. Damian, remember, you got to keep the contract now.
Yep.
You got to keep that monster deal. Spinning or staying, Matt Ryan?
Staying, right?
So Matt Ryan, he won MVP. Move out the way. Let me get my space here. So Matt Ryan, former league MVP. Yep. Been to the Super Bowl.
BC, dude.
BC, of course. BC. The BC angle. Of course, that's a lock, right?
No, he's spinning. Come on.
I'm taking my chances.
You're spinning on Matt Ryan, and you got
Trubisky. You got Mitch Trubisky, man.
Hey, he becomes a little cheaper. What are
you trying to do?
I'm saying you're not going to have to pay.
In the NBA, there's a luxury tax bill, right?
I've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul, man. You go pass on it now.
Hey, I'm going to say here, boy. Here's what I'm going to say.
You lost.
Right now, I'm taking the L. But here's what I'm going to say. If there's any silver lining in this, I got a young quarterback under control, under his rookie deal for a while. New head coach Matt Nagy, creative guy, came under Andy Reid. I'm just saying. I'm trying to scrape together something, man. Right. Listen, I took a chance. It's like Vegas. You take a chance sometimes.
Hey,
sometimes you come up short. Sometimes you come up short.
Here's a silver lining for you. Hey, Julio Jones, you're about to get paid because we just got a lot cheaper at quarterback. Yeah. So Julio Jones is like,
keep spinning, boys.
True.
I think Julio Jones has an accident.
Bottom line, there's a lot of spinning happening here. There's a whole lot of spinning. So we'll get to Brees.
Yep.
What do you think here? You're gonna spin Drew Brees?
No brainer. Talk about historically great quarterback.
Yeah.
You mentioned just a minute ago he's going to likely pass Peyton Manning for all-time passing yardage mark and potentially other records as well. 2 years and $50 million left on this contract. There were people around the NFL that were stunned that Drew Brees got. And I say only. I understand this is still a ton of money. He signed for just $50 million over the next 2 seasons. He could have commanded $60 million, and nobody would have batted an eyelash whatsoever. There is not a quarterback with greater accuracy than Drew Brees. He is a tremendous leader. 39 years old, the way that he relates to players on that roster and fires up his teammates is contagious. He is emblematic. He is synonymous. He is parallel with New Orleans. So many things that Drew Brees brings to that franchise. An absolute steal at 2 for $50.
Need to break out a thesaurus.
I know, my God.
You know what? I got motivated by Woj on Thursday. Hey, Woj got me going during the draft. I know you guys saw him on Twitter. I've been inspired by you, Woj.
The great Field Yates. The NFC South is the only division where 3 quarterbacks have started in a Super Bowl. Fun fact. What's today? Is it Wednesday? Fun fact Wednesday. So we'll take a look now at the AFC South quarterbacks. Mariota, who despite throwing more interceptions than touchdowns last season, helped the Titans to their first playoff appearance since 2008. Travis Kelce going down in the playoffs helped that. Nobody knows exactly what to expect from Andrew Luck. The Colts quarterback has missed 26 games over the past 3 seasons and hasn't taken a snap since Week 17 in 2016. Luck isn't the only quarterback in the division returning from injury, though. After throwing 19 touchdowns in 7 games, Deshaun Watson in Houston was lost for the season with a torn ACL. And how about Blake Bortles? Bortles helped the Jaguars reach the AFC title game last season. Despite up and down play, the Jags gave him a new 3-year deal during the offseason. All right, so we'll start, Damian, might as well start with Bortles then, right?
He spun on Matt Ryan. What do you think?
You're talking about the same guy who had more rushing yards than passing yards against the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs,
game.
Right?
That's right. By the way, Damian flicks the wheel and it goes through about 30 different cycles.
Right, I'm like down there.
Natural strength.
Boom!
Okay, Woody.
Boom! Could I have gotten a better spin than that? You couldn't have gotten much better than that.
No.
Listen, you're talking, obviously, Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP this past year, and Carson Wentz, who before he got hurt was in line to win NFL MVP. The name and the production speaks for itself. If the Jacksonville Jaguars had either one of these guys, I think that would be a tremendous upgrade.
I'm not saying I was rooting against you, but I was hoping that I could show some support toward Bortles, maybe with the worst situation to show the grass is always greener. But man, you knocked that one out of the park.
The grass is real green.
All right, so we'll go to Field. Who do you have? Watson? Let's go Watson.
Deshaun Watson. Let's not overthink the obvious here. Deshaun Watson has a chance to be a crown jewel of all 32 options here on his rookie contract. 19 touchdowns last season in just 7 games. The one concern, healthy. 2 separate ACL tears. Must stay healthy going forward, but he could be a player that could become the face of this league. I am staying on Deshaun Watson, which of course includes 3 more years on his rookie contract, plus a potential 5th-year option. He changed everything for this team. When he was out there last year, excellent and competitive, 3-3. In the games that he missed, not so good. 1-9. This team cratered. Yes, it's been a long year, a long wait for Texans fans, but it will be worth it when Deshaun Watson is back.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere on him.
No. You're a smart guy, Field, but that required no brains.
Yeah. And plus, you don't have to pay, so you can pay the rest of your roster for 3 years. It's money. Speaking of guys that you do have to pay, though, Andrew Luck in the Colts. Shoulder we still know hasn't played since 2016.
This is dicey right here.
This is dicey, and I know. Look, I got my producers trying to create good TV in my ear. They want me to spin this thing, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You know why?
I'm being defiant here.
I found a reason. I was Googling, I was doing all sorts of things to try to find some reason to keep him. And here's the one. You can't cut him right now. Remember, this game also implies picking up the contract of the guy that you have. Right now, if you were to get rid of Andrew Luck, it's $40 million in dead cap space. After 2018, you could consider it. But for now, you can buy yourself a year to find out exactly what he has by the fact that you just can't financially make this move. So, I mean, I'd love to do it, but should I do it?
Yeah, you might as well.
Let's just find out.
That's a
See?
Oh, could have been greener, my friend.
Did that count?
Damien.
Does that count?
Whoa.
Retroactively. Rewind.
Okay, does that count? That doesn't count?
Here's a situation. If you don't put any money on the table and you spend it, it just doesn't matter. You know, you get to sit there and enjoy the show, but you don't get any money.
Rational perspective.
Fascinating conversation.
That's how it works. All right, we got Mariota.
Yep,
Let's do a little Mariota. Here we go.
Supremely talented quarterback. There's no question about that. Not available. That's one of the key things you got to have at the quarterback spot. And right now, do we really know what Marcus Mariota is as a quarterback right now? We don't know. So let's give this thing a twirl here. Let's spin it. Let's see what we got.
This is an interesting one, too.
Let's go. Winner!
Hey, the dice are hot.
Hey, listen, I mean, you talk about a guy in Jared Goff. You know, rookie year, everyone said that he was a bust.
Kidding me?
Entering Sean McVay brings in a totally different culture, system. Sure. And, I mean, this guy turn this guy into a Pro Bowl quarterback. This guy's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League for a long time to come, especially with all the weapons that they've incorporated in this offense.
Here's a wonder for you. What could Marcus Mariota do with Sean McVay?
Well, how about this?
And that's not to discredit Jared Goff whatsoever, but I do think that Mariota still has some serious potential.
Well, he'll have a chance.
You won.
Yeah.
Guys, he will have a chance to see a Goff-like ride because Jared Goff's offensive coordinator last year, Matt LaFleur, is now the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. As a matter of fact, he was a candidate for their head coaching job. Now, I get it. Sean McVay is very much the orchestrator of that, but so is Matt LaFleur, a name that I think could be on the head coaching radar going forward. But now he just has to deal with Jared Goff again. So it's like, Matt's like, yeah, new place, same face.
We just spun with Jared Goff, Watson, and Wentz. That's 3 good spins.
Yeah.
Not bad, huh?
They're the 3 best because you don't have to pay them.
Yeah.
That's right.
You don't have to pay
3 best on the
road.
road.
You have 3 years with Watson, 2 with the other 2. I mean, sign me up for that. AFC South quarterbacks combined to throw. How about this? 76 touchdowns last season, which was the fewest among any division. We will now welcome in the king, the reigning king of the postseason, Super Bowl MVP. We've heard now that you've been all over the place, doing all these interviews. I heard through the book some of the stories that you were contemplating retirement at some point. Nick, what was the closest you ever came to actually stepping away from the game?
You know, in my mind, I had really called it quits. I was going to hang up the cleats and just sort of move on, just take a time just to figure out what I want to do. But in my heart, I 100% was, ready to do that. And that was after my release from the Rams. I talked to my agent and just said, I'm no longer going to play. And, teams were calling, but I was like, you don't have to tell me about it. I don't want to know. I really just want time to myself to, figure this out. And, that's really, how I felt at the time.
Yeah. So man, it's 4th and goal in Super Bowl 52. What snapped inside your head that said this might be that golden Philly special moment?
It's just a gut instinct. At that moment when the timeout was called, it just, shot to my head and was like, this would be a perfect time to run the Philly special. So I ran over to Doug, told him what I wanted. He paused for a second and then, says, yeah, let's do it. And, it was just one of those things where it was instinctual. It wasn't something that I had, premeditated. I knew we wanted to run it throughout the game. And it just was it was just a gut feeling. And I'm glad we called it. I'm glad it was executed. And, it really helped us continue our momentum. And crazy enough, now, Philly special will probably always be remembered.
I think you can go ahead and say definitely be remembered. It seems like you have such a great relationship with Doug Peterson. What's the one thing he does better than anyone else to create the type of locker room that you guys had last year?
I think he's just so genuine. I think the best coaches, the best people to be around in leadership roles are people who are genuine. They own who they are. They're not trying to fit a mold or be a rah-rah guy or whatever. And that's something that I've always appreciated about Coach Peterson. I mean, he was my quarterback coach, and so I had a great relationship with him then. And then I was really curious what it would be like to see him as a head coach and play for him as a head coach, but pleasantly surprised me to, know he's still the same Doug. He hasn't changed a bit. He just has a greater responsibility, and I think that's why people enjoy being around him, enjoy playing for him, and will fight for him every day.
No doubt. So as you lead up to week one, what's your understanding right now of how those reps will be divided between you and Carson Wentz?
I really don't know. I'm just going in there, ready to go, whatever the team needs of me. And I know y'all probably saying, like, oh, man, it's a politically correct answer and all that. No, I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, y'all saw how we rolled last year, how the Eagles roll. We're a brotherhood. That's how we're a family. Whatever the team needs out of me, I'm going to give them everything I got. I know everyone's waiting for Carson to get healthy, but he knows he doesn't have to rush. He's got to get his body back. He's got a great career ahead of him. He's a tremendous player, tremendous person. And, I'm excited to be his teammate this year once again. We have a fantastic quarterback room with, him, me, Nate Sudfeld, Joe Callahan. It's going to be a fun training camp, and, it's a unique situation for Philly right now.
Nick, you may have the cutest daughter in America. You can put me on record with that. I'm curious what story, when the time is right, what story might you tell her about Super Bowl 52?
I think the story that I'll tell her is, just having her on stage and just letting her know what she means to me, me being her father, and just say, just let her know that the reason I brought her up there is that, she's a joy in my life. She's everything, and that, my trophy was in my arms holding her before I hoisted the Lombardi. And just to let her know, her daddy's love, and I think that's the big message. I don't want her to think, I'm holding the trophy, and that it's a great representation of what a team did, what a city thrived for, what they waited for, and I am so honored, and it was an amazing moment lifting it up, but I was getting to hold my daughter in my arms right before that, and there's nothing greater than, looking out over the confetti, knowing we had won the Super Bowl, my daughter's in my arms, my wife's right beside me. That's the moment I'll really remember, and just share those emotions with her.
I'm a big softy, man, but you gave me chills. Nick, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. I look forward to reading this book, and have a great year, man.
Hey, thank y'all for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So there's Nick Foles. So the Super Bowl MVP. How can Peterson turn as we come into the Verizon film room here, how can Peterson turn a backup quarterback into a Super Bowl MVP and down that stretch? I mean, it's just unbelievable down the stretch.
I mean, he did the work too, and this is kind of what we were talking about in our last segment, where you need to have the cooperation between a head coach and a quarterback, and they had just that. And I mean, I look at this situation, and I know Nick Foles, everybody's like, man, I bet Nick wants to get somewhere else, may get that money and all that stuff. He's sitting in the perfect spot. I mean, Philadelphia might as well build him a statue. He doesn't have to get in any other game. He'll eventually get a chance somewhere else to start. That's going to happen. He'll get paid. Philadelphia is sitting perfect. There is no controversy here. This is QB1 in Wentz, QB2 in Foles. Everybody should just be happy about it.
Well, I think the mark of a really good coach is adapting to what your players do best. And what you saw from Doug Peterson, he just kind of incorporates some things that Chip Kelly actually did with being the head coach in Philadelphia. Those RPOs, run pass option things that actually Nick Foles really excelled at with Chip Kelly. So, you just saw him just incorporate little things. And if you watch the Super Bowl, those things came to fruition. He had a monster game against the New England Patriots.
So much of what we talk about with coaching is tactical and ability to develop players and in-game management, but you can't overlook the importance of player confidence, and that starts with coaching resilience. When this team lost Carson Wentz, a lot of people said they'll be lucky to win a playoff game. Lucky. And listen, they got all they could handle from the Falcons in that very first game that came down to the last play. But Doug Peterson was defiant. He was stoic in some ways, and perhaps that was a representation of his belief that when he was saying, I believe in Nick Foles, it was not lip service to get the media press conference to go from start to finish. He meant it, and it paid off in a way that we've never seen before.
So if you're Doug Peterson, what's the perfect way to play this offseason then? Are you going to divide these reps? How do you do it?
I don't think there's that. And by the way, he's been literally in Nick Foles' shoes as a quarterback and a backup at that. So, I think that he'll handle it perfectly, and just don't overcomplicate it. If Carson Wentz is ready to play, he's ready to play, but just make sure that you continuously tell Carson, you are our guy. Do not rush back. You will be fine. I mean, the worst thing that Philadelphia could do right now is overcomplicate this, number one, or number two, put Carson Wentz on the field too soon. He will fight to get out there. I guarantee it. But you got to protect him from himself in that regard. That's the only way that this could get messed up.
mean, you come back to Philly, the team you were with, and after you're contemplating retirement, and you go.
It's awesome. It's one of the great stories.
You
in
go play the way he played. I love it. Great dude. Too.
Yeah.
You just can't beat it. Kirk Cousins brought the van with them to Minnesota. The Vikings quarterback tweeting earlier this photo came from this week, saying people are giving him a hard time, but it still runs well. I mean, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. So we're talking about cars. Did you guys anybody ever have a bad car here? Worst car you ever had? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a Chevrolet Beretta, and the air conditioner didn't work, the fuel hand didn't work, and my wife went to labor, and I'm driving the car, and my car ran out of gas on the way to the hospital. Luckily, my mother-in-law was like close by.
Are you
picked
kidding
us up
me?
and took us to the hospital.
She's in labor and you run out of gas.
Ran out of gas.
You're on the side of the road with your wife in labor.
I'm literally like, man, I'm screwed.
Oh my
I'm screwed
God.
right now.
Hey, which
luckily,
number?
mother-in-law came to the rescue.
Which number?
Number
kid?
1.
The first kid.
First one.
Might have been the last if you hadn't made it there.
The first one. Yeah. It was like that.
I had a 1980. Well, now I have a 1997 Jeep Wrangler that has death wobble. Currently changing the suspension.
Yeah.
That sounds dangerous, doesn't it?
Yep.
It does, yeah.
I had a 1984 Audi, and this was like in 2000. And the radiator would smoke if you stopped at the stoplight too long. We had to have a jug of water, fill the radiator up. That was pretty rough.
How many thousands of miles is too much? Like, when do you have to draw the line?
Jeep's got 140.
Now, it's not about the miles. It's about the wear and tear and how it looks.
Right.
That's what it's all about right there.
Yeah.
100,000 miles, I'm still going. I'm cruising.
Bottom line, if that thing still starts, press that gas pedal,
right.
fire it up.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him, "Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?" His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.